Hi, my name's Julie Palazzolo, and I am mom to three amazing human beings, Salvatore, Eliana, and Joseph. And it would not be okay if I didn't mention the fourth. That's Daisy, and she is incredibly spoiled. I did a really good job raising the older three, but I don't know what happened with her. You know what they say about the babies of families. I am an event director and a realtor, and I know I don't have all the answers, but I have some, and I'm not healed, but I'm healing. Last time I was in a scenario like this, I was in high school. I was applying for as many scholarships as I possibly could. My counselor would call me in sometimes, and she would suggest scholarships for me to apply to. She called me in one day and she said, "There's this one in particular that no one has signed up for, and I believe you should do it. It's a speech challenge debate with a scholarship attached to it." Now, any other normal brain would say, nobody else has signed up for it? Probably not a good idea. My brain saw opportunity. So I prepared as best as I could for that speech, but I did not understand anything I was talking about. So I arrived that night. There were only two other speakers in the whole of the city that signed up for it. Out of the three of us, two of us were speech and debate team members, and one of us was not. Those guys blew me out of the water. I barely uttered an intelligent sentence throughout my speech. Needless to say, I did not get that scholarship, and I got sent home with a piece of humble pie. There's some things that are different today, this many years later, being in the same scenario. Number one, I'm pretty sure those guys are not here. I've looked around, chances are slim, they're not here. And the second piece of it is subject matter knowledge. I know this subject like the back of my hand. The unexpected pivot. Well, what is a pivot? A pivot, according to the Oxford definition, is a central point where a mechanism turns or oscillates. So, what is that in life? It's a complete change of direction. It's something so out of what you've been doing that it completely changes the trajectory of your life. Sometimes we choose the pivot, we choose a career change, we get married, we move. And in those scenarios, we plan, we prepare, we research. And even though they're a little bit scary, we execute them, maybe some hiccups along the way. But for the most part, it feels pretty good because we did that thing that we were planning for. But what happens when it's forced upon you and it's unexpected? It came by way of just happening, or maybe somebody else's actions, or maybe they were your own actions, but you didn't mean it, or you didn't realize the repercussions of your actions. What happens then? Well, if you're like me, you've laid your life out accordingly, and if life would only do what you planned for, you wouldn't be here having to manage the unexpected pivot. Mine came by way of my husband getting lost and not stopping and asking for direction. One little text blew the whole thing up. This was very difficult for me because my whole identity was wrapped up in this. I had stayed home for 13 years. I served my family and my children. I had started to work a little bit at this point, but everything I did and what I felt called to was that. So I found myself in the deepest level of sorrow and grief, trying to figure out how to manage this unexpected pivot, build my career in my 40s, and show up as the mom that I wanted to be still to these kids. It was hard, and it still is hard. And so I've identified 5 things that can help through an unexpected pivot. An unexpected pivot can come by way of job loss, divorce, a diagnosis, loss of friendship. There's so many ways we can experience an unexpected pivot. The first tip that I have for you is to acknowledge and accept it. You have to acknowledge what's happened and its impact on your life. I know that's very hard for some of us. We like to pretend like it's not happening, pretend it doesn't exist. It's that elephant in the room that takes up most of the crevices, and we scooch around it and we pretend like it's not there. I think the beginning of healing happens when you acknowledge it, when you name it, and you name its impact on you. When you say, "This is hard, this hurts, I'm afraid, I don't know where I belong." There's all of these things wrapped up in that acknowledgement that helps you move on to the next piece. The second half of this first tip is to accept it. You have to accept that this is what's happened and this is where you're at. I know for me, I had a really hard time accepting this. I could not believe that I knew him best out of everyone, and I didn't know him at all. It started to make me question things like what I thought I had, I didn't. Who I thought I wasn't. Who I thought he was, well, he really wasn't. And so the piece of accepting it was the second piece, aside from acknowledging it, to start moving towards healing. The thing was, I was pretty sure that I had signed up for the highly favored Hallmark movie edition of life. You know, where I'm super successful. And I get sent to a small town to manage a project because nobody else in the company can do it but me. And there's this local handyman, and he's super handsome, a good guy. And we start dating and we fall in love. And I realize I'm going to be the breadwinner here, but I'm okay with that because he's such a good guy and he treats me so well. And then a plot twist comes in. Turns out he's independently wealthy. He just does handiwork because it fulfills him in a way that his wealth could never. And he gets paid by way of scones and banana bread by the little old ladies in town, and he loves it. And we fall in love and we live happily ever after. Well, it turned out I was actually on the highly challenged Lifetime movie edition of life. I'm not even going to get into what that looks like. So it was really hard for me to accept. My little Sicilian grandmother had two phrases that she used often. One of them was, well, what are you going to do? Super vague, but really accurate at the same time. I don't know. What am I going to do? And then the second one was, it is what it is. It is what it is. And so now that you know what it is, you can start moving towards your new path and new ways of living. We have to acknowledge and accept it. The second piece is to talk to someone. Being unseen in a really difficult or tragic section of your life is the quickest way to devalue ourselves. For me, I know I kept quiet because I felt that I needed to protect my kids. But what happened was I was suffering and no one knew. Not my family, not my friends. I needed to talk to someone. I was dealing with the deepest amount of fear, pain, and my own family didn't know. And so eventually I talked to my friend Heather, which we'll speak about later on, and another friend. And then I started talking to family, and I'm still working through that process of deciding who I feel I want to share my heart with. So I want you to do a little exercise with me. Go ahead and close your eyes and imagine you and me at a coffee shop. It's a beautiful coffee shop. The sun is shining warm on our skin. I have my hot latte in hand and you have your beverage of choice. It could be coffee, it could be tea, or if you're of my daughter's era, it's matcha. And I'm still trying to understand that beverage of choice. You feel completely safe to tell me the hard things that are happening, your unexpected pivot, and how it's impacted you. And I focus on you while we talk. My phone notifications are off and our watches are not. And you feel good because you've just let out all those hard things inside. You feel relief and you feel seen. And at the end of it, we stand up and we hug. Now, if you're not a hugger in real life, you are for this exercise, and it feels good and you like it, just so you know. And now we're friends. We've shared hard things. We've been transparent with each other. So go ahead and open your eyes. How much more would an exchange like that mean to you with your family member or your friend who you have history with? The impact would be so much greater. You have to talk to someone. Number 3, give yourself grace. Grace upon grace. You are managing really hard things that have come about that you never saw coming. And you're not necessarily prepared for it because you never saw it coming. And now it's here and now you have to deal with it. You have to give yourself grace. One of my favorite books is The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And his 4th agreement is to always do your best. Well, what does that mean? Have you eaten? Ladies, have you eaten? Are you caffeinated? At the end of the day, if you can say you did your best with what you had, that has to be good enough. And you have to be kind in the things that you think about yourself and the things that you say about yourself, because that voice in our head is pretty powerful. And words have a way of building or tearing down, and we have to choose little implements and shifts towards speaking more positively about ourselves. Instead of saying, you're so stupid, instead say, I'm really smart, but I didn't know that thing. It's like I told my kids when we were going through our unexpected pivot of divorce and houses and all the things that I said, you know, at some point in your life, you're going to have really challenging, hard things because none of us get out of life without them. But when they do come, all you can do is the best with what you have. And that is all that we're doing is the best with what we have. And that has to be good enough. And back to how we talk to ourselves and what we think of ourselves. I don't know if you remember or not, but we're friends. And I'm not okay with you talking to my friend like that, so knock it off. Grace upon grace, please. Get the tools. Well, what are the tools? That depends on what kind of a pivot you're going through. And so those tools looked like buying pretty flowers and putting them in a vase, a smelly candle, a hot bath with a glittery bath bomb, a cup of coffee with a good book, the ocean, journaling, a fluffy blanket with the TV series Merlin on repeat. Those were the tools that I used at the time. Here's another tool I'd like to share with you. There's the fourth one in the background. This is an RV that my friend Diana gave me. And it is to represent that I can do hard things. You see, a couple weeks after we separated, we had our annual beach camping trip planned with my brother. And I didn't want the kids to miss out, and I didn't want to miss out. And so I knew that probably in a couple weeks, under duress, I couldn't learn how to tow a trailer. But I told myself, you drive a Yukon XL, you could drive a motorhome. So I rented a motorhome. And Salvatore and I went to go pick up that motorhome. And he is 16 at the time. And the guy was talking to him. He said, if this happens, switch this. If that happens, turn this. If the Duma Fletcher goes, I don't even know what they were saying. I didn't understand any of it. But I was a little offended because I was the adult there and I was the one paying for it. So at this point, the tools look a little bit different than they did in the beginning. However, I still use this tool, and I used it not that long ago when I needed to figure out how to get my daughter up to Washington State University, just the two of us, and get her moved in and then come back on my own. So the tools at this point look more like grief-informed massage, breathing technique workshops. I just did one recently, a Wim Hof breathing technique, ice bath challenges, and then pretty soon here there'll be EMDR therapies, as well as I'm signing up for a boxing class. No matter what your unexpected pivot is, most likely it is loss. You had this thing and now it's gone. You had this person and now they're gone. And when there's loss, there's grief involved. And for me, one of the most powerful things that I did, most empowering things I did, was go to counseling. When I was 22, my dad passed away, and it was unexpected, and it was a big loss for our family. He was everybody's person. And it took me about 7 years to get into counseling. I felt so ashamed. I felt weak that I couldn't handle my life. And the day that I arrived, my first day with her, she said the very thing that I needed to hear. She said, I want to tell you how very strong you are. My prayer for you is that you go and get the tools. The fifth and final thing is to lean in and be grateful. Well, this unexpected pivot is here now. So what do? We have to lean in. And when you start leaning in, all of a sudden there are all these doors that have opened up for you that were not on this other path. And they look scary and they're different. And who knows what's behind them. Me being here, for example, is a result of the unexpected pivot and leaning in. My friend Heather that I spoke about earlier, when our kids were in grade school, I met her on the PTA. She came to me one day and she said, you are really good at organizing things. And I run an event at Petco Park and I don't have an assistant this year and I would like for you to assist me. Would you be up for that? And I said, yeah. And so we did that for about 4 years together. We were a few years out from doing it, including the pandemic. And when that was done, they called her and they said, "We'd like to return and we would like for you to direct it." And she said, "I'm busy with other work right now. I can't do it, but call Julie." So they called me, and then I called her and I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" I said, "You direct and I assist. And it works really well that way." And she said, "You can do this." She knew I was in the middle of a big unexpected pivot and that I needed the work. She also knew I was capable of it. And so I leaned into that, and I am just now planning my 4th year of directing the San Diego Festival of Science and Engineering. And this last year was one of our largest years in many years, and we had 23,000 in attendance. Be grateful. I'm sure some of you were rolling your eyes. How can I be grateful when this just happened to me? My career, my identity. How do you expect for me to be grateful? Well, I find that the more grateful I am, the more opportunities arise and the more I have to be grateful for. I can confidently say today that two things can be true at the same time. I can say this is by far the hardest thing I've ever been through, but I can also say that I'm really grateful. In closing, I want to say that I'm not perfect at this. I return to these things time and time again because I fall short. I feel sad. I feel lonely. I have fear. I cope. I'm just like any other human going through a scenario like this or any unexpected pivot. But I want to say that you are an intelligent human being. You are equipped with personality, humor, love, compassion, passion, and so much more. Do not allow the unexpected pivot to keep you from the world and all the things that make you you, because we need you. We need all the things that make you you. And as hard as it is and how we wish that that wouldn't be happening in your life, we look forward to seeing what comes out of your unexpected pivot. So again, my name's Julie Palazzolo, and I am mom to 3 incredible human beings, the dog. And I don't have all the answers, but I have some. And I'm not healed, but I'm healing. Thank you.